Before we identify what could have been the business objective behind Amazon's Or the Cow campaign, let's just take a moment to understand these terms really well and look at some of the examples from across different categories so that we have a good understanding before we approach the Amazon example. Let's look at the last one first, average weight of consumption. Do you know of any marketing activities that have driven average weight of consumption? If you've taken any marketing class, you would have come across that example of a toothpaste brand which had increased the diameter of the nozzle. Now, because most people measure toothpaste longitudinally when they're putting it on their toothbrush, if you increase the diameter, then obviously the amount of toothpaste that comes on the toothbrush increases, and therefore the average weight of consumption increases. And it's a rather surreptitious way of going about increasing average weight of consumption. It's a very, very common example. One of the smarter marketing ploys of recent times was the geo introductory pricing. Now, you look at this pricing closely and you can clearly see that if you're a reasonably heavy user of data, then the plan that's going to work most for you is going to be the 1,000 rupee plan. But you'll see that there's no gap between the 500 and 1,000 rupee plan. There's no intermediate pricing. So either you accept low data usage or you shift to the higher plan. And obviously you get a lot more in those 1,000 rupees, but still you have pushed the average weight of consumption of data in a substantial way by having this kind of a pricing. So that's a very good example of average weight of consumption. Then let's come to frequency of consumption. Now, within frequency of consumption, one of the best examples ever is Cadbury. Cadbury has had to work with an Indian consumer who does not want to consume chocolates. I mean, you might think that, oh, because our country is relatively poor when it compares to some of the Western democracies, therefore chocolate consumption in India is less. But I can tell you that even amongst the higher socioeconomic classes, chocolate consumption doesn't really happen a lot when you compare it to UK or Europe or the US or Japan. It just doesn't really compare even amongst the higher socioeconomic classes. And you know the reason why, right? All of our cultures, whether it's in the northeast, southwest, or in the central part of India, all of our cultures have these rich Indian delicacies, rich Indian sweets that are already part of our food. And so therefore, when something like that is already part of our food cuisine, it has been hard for Cadbury to go out and sell chocolates and try and fit that in as part of regular consumption. So their job has been to figure out over the course of time, how do we get Indians to start consuming more chocolates from a regularity point of view? And one of the more popular campaigns that they've launched is this one.
Mom, आज खाने में क्या है?
लौकी।
आज मीठे में क्या है? करेले की
करेला।
खाने के बाद मीठे में कुछ मीठा हो जाए.
So as you can see, they're clearly going after the after meal dessert occasion, trying to get chocolates introduced into that particular space. Alright, so then that being frequency, let's come finally then to penetration, which is about getting users who have never consumed your brand to start consuming your brand. And you can imagine that a lot of the campaigns that you come across are actually penetration campaigns. Here's one example for you to look at.
ठंडा खाना? I mean, what kind of a 5-star hotel is this?
I'm sorry, sir.
कभी खाना?
Sometimes it's okay to have a cold meal, but never when you're flying. Enjoy delicious hot meals aboard SpiceJet flights.
SpiceJet, red hot spicy.
Pretty obvious why this is a penetration campaign. Before we head to the Or the Cow campaign from Amazon, I want to clarify one point. Some of you might be thinking that, look, this is a theoretical question. They might be going after this or that, or maybe both of them. So how does it really matter? It seems as if it's an exercise in theoretical or conceptual world. It doesn't have any rootedness to reality. I can tell you that if you're thinking that, you're absolutely, utterly incorrect. The business objective is the first thing that a brand manager has to think about in real world marketing. It is a hard job, and if you try and go after multiple objectives, or worse, don't even think about what your core business objective is going to be, where the source of growth is going to come from, then your chances of success go down even further. Also consider that how we define the business objective is how we measure the success or failure of a campaign. Therefore, the business objective of a campaign has to be clearly defined and specific in nature, which brings us back to the Or the Cow campaign. You think that this campaign is about average weight of consumption or frequency of consumption or penetration.